طبعا ما بنحبش نحط الستنت لسببين. اول سبب ان انا كده هبقى حكمت على الارتري ده صغير يفضل على نفس الدايمتر الصغير. النورمال ادلت دايمتر بيبقى 5 ل 6 مللي في الدايمتر اوف ذا رينال ارتري. هنا احنا بنشتغل على 2.5 3 مللي. يبقى انا هدخله في ستينوزس ايتروجينيك بعد كده لما يكبر. تاني حاجه الانسيدنس اوف نيو انتمال هايبربليزيا مع سكندري ثرومبوزس، وهنضطر نمشيها على الانتي بليتليت وانتي كواجوليشن فور لونج بيريود اوف تايم.
شكرا دكتور محمد. شرف النهارده بوجودي مع اساتذتي وزملائي جامعه القاهره، وبشكر الدكتور حافظ على دعوته ليا، واشكر النجاح المؤتمر للدكتور حافظ وباقي تيم البيكيو. ودلوقتي التوبكس Vascular Access in PICU Challenge and Solution. اتفضل دكتور بروفيسور محمد غوباشي كاري يونيفرسيتي.
Thanks for the invitation. Thanks to Hafiz and the committee for inviting me to make this successful conference. Our talk today will be about different aspects of vascular venous access in the PICU, the challenges with the concentration in technical concentration. I will start by mentioning the types of central catheters. Four main categories of the central venous catheters are used: non-tunneled temporary catheters, tunneled catheters like the Pernicare, Lakeman catheters, implantable venous devices, the Portacath, and the PICC lines with peripherally inserted central catheters. The ordinary approaches or the traditional venous approaches include the sodium vein, the jugular vein, the femoral, and peripheral vein, cephalic or basilic. The catheterization kit, usually the basic kit, include the puncture needle, the guide wire, the dilator, and the catheter itself. This is an image of the temporary Hickman, temporary Mahooker catheter, temporary dialysis catheter. And this is the permanent or permanent case. The difference is the material, and in this position, this is a cuff called dacron cuff, access through the skin through a special needle called the hubber. This is a demonstration of the PICC line. PICC line is they come in different sizes, also on units with the size of the catheter up to 2 French or 1.8 French. The access is usually from the great saphenous vein or from one of the peripheral vein, and then directed through the anatomical pathway subclavian peripheral cephalic SVC down to the atriocaval junction under image. Pediatric techniques mirror those performed in adult with special dedicated materials and devices due to the small size of the vessels. Ultrasound-guided puncture should be preferred to reduce the risk of vascular complication, dissection, pseudoaneurysms at the access site to minimize the risk of thrombosis. Color Doppler should be done before the access to allow for proper mapping and evaluation of the veins. The probes is usually high-frequency probes used from 5 to 12 megahertz. Two approaches are used, either the transverse approach or the longitudinal transverse approach or longitudinal approach. The transverse approach is much more easier, and it is usually used in the jugular vein. This is what you see when you use the transverse approach. The probe is placed transversely over the vein, the needle just in the middle of the probe, and you see the tip of the needle approaching the vein, and here you see the tip of the needle inside the vein. The longitudinal approach is much more difficult, and you see the whole length of the needle, and it provides you with a three-dimensional mental image of the needle that could be steered as the vessels is displaced medial or laterally. You can see the whole length of the needle, but you have to properly align the needle pathway with the ultrasound probe. Don't move the transducer and the needle at the same time, and you have to leave the transducer frozen during manipulation. Veins can be tough, yes. We think that the veins are very small, but actually they are elastic, and the intima couldn't be punctured easily, and we have to make sure that we have punctured the needle and get a good backflow. If the vein collapses due to hypovolemia or tachypnea, we should use a competent operator to adequately puncture the vein. And also we have to consider good ultrasound skills to execute other pathologies that could mimic the veins. This is a vein, and those are thyroid nodules. This is an example of insertion of a PICC line. I would like to show only that it is inserted using what we call a peel-away sheath. This is the sheath inserted over a guide wire and the PICC line, and then I peel the sheath. This is through the lower limb great stiffness vein, and after peeling the sheath, okay, the line is in place and fixed, and this line can be used for a long time, up to 1 month. This PICC line. In cases of complex cases like the central venous occlusion, you have to refer the case to the interventional radiology department, and so further management could be done. One of the interventions we do is the recanalization of central venous occlusion. Like in this case, there is a puncture was done to the right brachiocephalic vein, complete occlusion of the SVC near the intercaval junction, reflux of the contrast in the adipose vein, a successful recanalization of the SVC passing through the right atrium and in the hepatic IVC with placement of a permicus. The common cases are done at our unit. This is one of them. Another cases with multiple collaterals, paravertebral collaterals with reflux into the internal mammary vein and paravertebral plexus, with successful recanalization of near total occlusion of the SVC was done. Another complex case, the patient had right-sided ventriculoatrial shunt with complete occlusion of the central vein. The puncture of the left subclavian vein revealed multiple collaterals, severe collaterals communicating with the paravertebral plexus, and we can, with advanced techniques and ultrasound combined during the intervention, we can do the adequate pathway of recanalization and was successful recanalization of the SVC. In cases with long-standing obstruction with multiple collaterals, usually recanalization failure, and we have to search for other alternative pathways. And in this case, the multi-slice CT venography was done, revealed the hypertrophied right internal mammary vein draining into the SVC, and of a good caliber reaching 6 mm, which is good enough for permicus or Hooker, and the successful puncture of the first intercostal space through the first intercostal space parasternal into the internal mammary vein, and a permanent catheter was placed. This is the images, the CT venography, the catheter after insertion, and the 3D image. Other non-traditional pathway, the transhepatic pathway, puncture through the right or left hepatic veins, and in this case, right hepatic vein was punctured up to the hepatic IVC with the tip of the catheter at the right atrium. And the permicus could be also placed, making a tunnel with peeling of the cheese. More advanced techniques include the sharp needle recanalization, angioplasty, doing cone beam CT and merging the images with the fluoro during the procedure could help us to properly recanalize and avoid false pathways. Technical messages, assessment by Doppler, study pre-procedure is important, multi-slice CT venography in cases of venous occlusion, ultrasound guided should be done after special training and competency. Particular attention also paid to thrombosis in the catheter dead space, hemotic loss during catheter exchange, especially neonates and babies. Small thrombi and air bubbles may produce fatal non-target embolization. Refer to the IR department in cases of thoracic central venous occlusion, recanalization techniques, and non-traditional access. Moreover, attention must be paid to radiation protection. Thank you.